Hello, everyone. Holy. How's everyone doing tonight? Quiet, please. Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to everyone in person and for those who are online on Twitch as well. Hi, chat. I'm Steven. I am the community director here at Hack the Hill, and I'll be your English MC for the event. Alongside me, I have Pavli, who will be emceeing the event with me in French.
Donc, bonjour à tous, je suis Pavli, le directeur de logistique de Hack the Hill. Et comme Steven l'a mentionné, je serai votre animateur en français pour cet événement et Steven sera votre animateur en anglais.
For those who are unfamiliar with who we are, Hack the Hill is an internationally hosted hackathon taking place right here on campus in February. Our organization is made out of students from various student organizations and associations such as ESS, IEEE, CSSA, CISA, and Women in Engineering. In the lead up to the hackathon in the winter, various community events such as this one will be taking place, and we hope that you'll all be able to find the time to attend all of them.
Pour ceux qui ne savent pas qui nous sommes, Hack the Hill est un hackathon international qui se déroule sur campus en février. Donc, notre organisation est composée de diverses associations et organisations d'étudiants telles que AEG, IEEE, AEI, AEGL et les Femmes en Génie. Donc, avant le hackathon de l'hiver, divers événements communautaires tels que celui-ci auront lieu. Donc, nous espérons que vous pourrez trouver le temps de participer à tous ces événements et nous joindre pour Hack the Hill.
Before we start this event, we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to be present on this territory.
Avant de commencer, nous tenons à reconnaître que nous rassemblons ce soir sur le territoire non cédé de la nation Anishinaabe-Algonquin. Les peuples de la nation Anishinaabe-Algonquin vivent sur ce territoire depuis des millénaires. Leur culture et leur présence l'ont enrichi et l'enrichissent toujours. Nous rendons hommage au peuple et au territoire de la nation Anishinaabe-Algonquin et nous rendons hommage à toutes les Premières Nations, à tous les Inuits et à tous les Métis, de même qu'aux précieuses contributions passées et présentes à celles faire.
We are very excited to share that this event is being sponsored by Lone Haven Creative Studios, Major League Hacking, GitHub, Radix, and Stack Overflow. We are grateful to have their support in this event tonight.
Nous sommes heureux de vous annoncer que cet événement est sponsorisé par Lone Haven Creative Studios, Major League Hacking, GitHub, Radix et Stack Overflow. Nous sommes reconnaissants de leur soutien à l'événement de ce soir.
So here's how things are going to go down tonight. First, we're going to have our guest speakers, Ayman and Omer, discuss what the best practices are for resume writing, where you'll be able to gain valuable input for your own professional resume. Then, at an undisclosed time, we'll take a break for dinner. We have pizza, snacks, and drinks available for you all in the back of the room. We'll then get back together and resume the resume roasting.
Donc, voici comment l'itinéraire va se dérouler ce soir. Tout d'abord, nos conférenciers invités, Ayman et Omar, discuteront des meilleures pratiques en matière de préparation de CV, ce qui vous permettra d'obtenir des informations précieuses pour votre propre CV professionnel. Ensuite, nous ferons une pause. Pour le souper, nous avons de la pizza, des collations et des boissons disponibles pour vous tous. Nous nous retrouverons ensuite où nous continuons à roaster les CV.
All right, without further ado, please welcome our guest speakers, Ayman Sharif from Siena and Omer Abubakar from Microsoft.
Alors, sans plus tarder, veuillez accueillir nos conférenciers invités, Ayman Sharif de Siena et Omer Abubakar de Microsoft.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very honored. My name is Ayman, and I am a software developer at Siena. So I'll just introduce myself quickly, and then we'll move on to Omer. So I am a test automation software engineer at Siena, and basically my responsibility is to do end-to-end software testing, right? We do all sorts of development at Siena, so testing is one of them as well. So I'm responsible for writing test cases, test plans, software development, coding, etc. And then we also have Omer.
Mic test again. Give me a thumbs up, Ayman. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so my name is Omer Abubakar. I graduated from the University of Ottawa in May 2022. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft at Microsoft Start. I work as a full stack engineer, basically front end, back end, and testing. They gave me a very hard job, but you know what? It's nice. And yeah, I'm very excited to be joining you guys remote. I see there's a huge attendance. It's always nice to see events like, yeah, where you were before. And yeah, let's get this thing started.
All right. So let's start. So introductions. So just a disclaimer before we move on, right? So this resume roast is not about demeaning you or kind of saying your resume is bad or it's horrible, right? It's just we want to go through the resumes to make sure that you understand how the industry format resume is, how a professional resume should look like. And we want to roast it as best as possible because you don't want to show up or submit your resume to places where it's not up to standard or up to par, right? So we want to make sure that we get all the points through today. And if you don't see your resume up there today, or even if you do see your resume up there today, it's not because we chose it biased on any decisions. It was just we wanted to keep a range of resumes so we can go through and kind of address all sorts of resumes and basically give feedback, right? And as always, if you have questions, you can always ask us later on. We'll be around here.
Yeah,
So
to add to that, there was a lot of resume submissions, and a lot of the resume roasting that we were going to be going through, a lot of points will be repetitive. So even if we didn't go over your specific resume, we went through a point that you've had on your resume that you can improve. And as Emma said, you could always reach out to us privately to get your resume roasted.
awesome. So let's start. Omar?
All right, yeah. So basically, the topic of our discussions today at the beginning would be how to format your resume and what kind of information you will put. So a lot of the times when you're roasting your resume, it will be about the information, and you always have to proofread your resume. So basically, we will also be proofreading your resume. Also, give your resume to your peer to let them proofread, and basically help you understand the kind of the perfect tech resume framework. Next slide. Basically, whenever you are listing a work experience or like a personal project or anything that requires some sort of description, you want to make it into a bullet point system, and don't add too many bullet points. No one wants to read a lot of bullet points. Also, I should have started with this. Basically, your resume has to be a one page. Your resume can only kind of extend to 2 pages if you're a PhD student, and I don't know if there's a lot of PhD students in the crowd here, or you're like a working professional with a lot of experience and a lot of stuff to add. But usually, if you're a student, which is the majority of the people who want their resume roasted, keep it to 1 page. No recruiter wants to read more than 1 page. Yeah, next slide. And throughout your resume, you really want to just capture kind of the reader's attention at every single point, right? So when recruiters are reading your resume, they look for, what's it called? They look for kind of the tech frameworks, the tech stacks that you worked with, because that's what they know at the end of the day. So a lot of the times you're going to hear us say, oh, you worked with a tech stack and you listed it out, make it bold, right? So as you can see in this example, like if you make like Postgres, I worked with PostgreSQL. If you make it bold, it stands out. Give me the next slide, Ayman. And overall, like if someone can just quickly skim your resume and just see all the kind of tech stacks and frameworks that you've worked with, if it's bold, like it just stands out. Next slide. Always keep it concise. Always keep your lines brief, short, compact, and simple. No one wants to read kind of a paragraph, or no one wants to read no one wants to kind of make logical connections in their brain when they're reading someone's resume. I should have kind of like a good idea of what you did just by skimming through it. And this is a nice example. I ate a bunch of cookies and cried myself to sleep last night. Oh, so sorry. This slide is regarding mentioning specific quantities. It's always nice to mention specific quantities when you can in your resume. So this example that goes like, I ate a bunch of cookies and cried myself to sleep last night. If you change it to, I ate 42 cookies, which increased my sadness level by 69% overall for the rest of the night, I have a good idea of how the business impact and the product impact that you've made. And it's always nice to see numbers. It gives you a good idea, and the recruiter or like the manager who's reviewing your resume can refer back to it when you're interviewing and so on. Give me the next slide. And no one wants to read unnecessary text. That goes back to my initial point about keeping it short and concise. Give me bullet points, give me short, concise bullet points, such as, and you also need to basically focus on what you have done in your personal project or what you have done in your work experience when you're writing your resume. So when you have to focus your points on basically technical stuff like prototyping, object-oriented, and you should really steer away from those complex sentences or phrases that you use when explaining something. Next slide. And basically, that I went through this as well. Don't list out what your job responsibilities was. Don't go to like the job posting that your previous job's job posting and just copy paste what you've done. No. Think about what you've accomplished and what you've done, and what your duties were in the day-to-day, and the projects that you've done overall, and list them out.
Right, and also like
Next
use
slide.
technical terms with constructive sentences, right? Don't, as Omar said, like don't say I did this, I know that. Like, yeah, we know that, but we want more technical stuff.
Basically, yeah. So I was responsible for designing the company's front-end page using new libraries, right? Sure, I know the overall picture, but does that give me a good idea of what you've done? I have a lot of questions now, right? Next slide. But if you say, I redesigned the company's homepage using React, CSS, and modern material UI components focusing on client-facing actions, now the kind of hundreds of questions that I had decreased to like 5 maybe. And those questions are not like in general of what you've done. Was that the next slide that was supposed to be? But I guess yeah, you can take it over from here, Ayman. I guess it was supposed to be the next slide.
Oh,
The
what's
slide
it?
after that?
This one?
Yeah, and then
Okay,
the
go
slide
ahead, go
before, then continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to create like a career snapshot, right? Like in your resume, you want to kind of outline the things that you did, like your education, your accomplishments, you know, what you accomplished, what you did, and at the end, kind of give a finished product so that when you give your resume out or submit your resume, that's exactly what they're looking for when they want to hire, right? So this is very important, right? You want to have the top information in your resume should be your name. It should be your contact information. So make sure that the first thing you have in your resume is your full name, right? And you should have your email address for sure. And if you're either in software engineering or electrical or computer systems, I'm pretty sure over the past 4 years, or even if you're in like first or second years, you have done several projects in school. So make sure to just push them to GitHub and include the link in your resume, right? It doesn't guarantee that they will look at your GitHub, but if they do, then it's just an added bonus than anyone who didn't add their GitHub with their projects, right? Make sure to have your education as well, right? This is super important. So let's say if I were to write something here, I would go like studying software engineering at Carleton University, graduating in 2022, and that's it, right? You just want to have a quick glance, and that's it. Don't keep it short, keep it brief, and then that's it. Just move on. So, sorry, 1 second. And then follow like a certain format. So there's no such thing as an ideal resume per se, but always try and keep it brief, concise, and to the point, right? So you want to have your projects. So let's say that you're in your second year and you still don't have any co-op experience, or you haven't done any internships. Just list down your projects, explain what you did in those projects, and if you don't have any work experience, that's completely okay. We all were at a point where we did not have work experience, so projects is very important to make sure that you explain your projects well. Make sure to put your skills on there as well, right? So if I was a recruiter, for example, I'd make sure to look at the skills first, because let's say you have everything on your resume, right? You're amazing at Java, you're amazing at web development, but what I'm looking for is, let's say, I don't know, some C++, right? And then you have absolutely no experience. So I'm probably not going to hire you, even though you have so much experience in that field, right? Or like, it depends from recruiters to recruiters, but I'm just giving you an example, right? So you want to make sure that you also have like a list of skills there as well. And of course, extracurricular activities are important, but make sure it's relevant to, let's say, your degree or something related to that, right? So yeah, let's say that you're working with IEEE, or you work in a game design, right? Or you're working with the car design team, Formula One, whatever it may be. So just make sure to put that on your resume, and it just shows that you go an extra mile and you're doing these extracurricular activities, right? So let's move on. Yeah, so in your section where you're writing your experience, right? It's very important to explain. Actually, Omar, you know what? I'll let you take this one. You explain this way better than I do.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. So basically, whenever you are listing out bullet points in your work experience or personal projects, there is an easy formula to kind of explain step by step what you did. And it goes as follows: did X using Y, achieving Z. Basically, you want to explain what you did, what you've done, with a short phrase. And then you want to explain what you used to do that with a short phrase as well, and what you've accomplished using a short phrase as well. So basically, there was an example that we showed before on how to do that, right? Basically, that's easier to understand, and quite frankly, not a lot of recruiters come from a technical background. So this kind of helps them kind of connect what frameworks you've used and for what technology you use and for what was the goal of your tasks, and always showing impact, showing where you helped your project or the business goes a long way into proving that you have a track record in making impact. And when it comes to your personal projects, that it shows that you know how to measure impact, which kind of like helps you get the job and helps you immensely.
Right, and it's also just easier, like if you write improved efficiency by reducing the operating time from 72 hours to 24 hours. Just something as simple as that, just to put some numbers in there, that just solidifies your points, right, that you put on your resume. Okay, so what should a perfect tech resume look like, right? So I like saying this because there's no such thing as a perfect tech resume or like an ideal resume. Each recruiter or each manager will look at your resume or maybe look for something different. I might have a different preference compared to maybe another, let's say, whatever, if there's another hiring manager, for example, right? So, yeah, just use action verbs in your resumes. Like, again, like don't make it too complex, but also don't make it like too simple, right? Don't say I did this, I did that, make sure to use words maybe like redesigning or re-implementing. Yeah, just words like that, right? And don't make sure to put like no irrelevant information. And yeah, just make sure you use keywords in your resumes. All right. So without further ado, let's move on to the roasting.
There is a slight issue on the. Are you able to edit the slides? Because they're like it's a little bit pushed towards the left.
Oh, can you not see?
Like yeah, well I can see it. No.
Oh, it's
Increase it
a
a
bit
little
out of proportion, right?
Yeah. So just move it a little bit towards
Okay.
the left. Well, make it smaller now. Now you've zoomed in.
One second.
If you can't, it's all good.
It's okay. I think it's just a
Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah.
It's fine even. Okay. But so, oh, you zoomed in. Technical difficulties.
Sorry.
It's fine. No, it's all good. So basically, actually, you can have this resume on my screen. I don't know why I'm saying that. Yeah. So I have it on my screen. So basically, this is one of this is an extremely well crafted resume, right? Just a few points that I have is make the basically the every technology or framework that you used in the points, make it bold, right? And any number, if you use any number or any kind of impact metric, also make that bold, right? Those are nice stuff to stand out. You don't have to make the technology that you used in your skill section bold because they already a list. Only when you said for example, in the first point in his first work experience, developed a solid Python automation framework containing over 70 tests for the telematics control unit, right? Make Python bold, make telematics control unit bold, right? It really kind of helps. I'm not too sure if that's a framework, but and also 70, make it bold. It really will stand out and will go a long way. Also, remove summary. You can put it, but you have enough. I usually tell people not to put summary because, quite frankly, no one cares. Everyone knows you want a job. Everyone can understand what you've done just by reading your resume. So it doesn't help, right? And this person has enough stuff on his resume that it actually is just adds more text, right? It would be better to just remove that summary and actually spread out stuff a little bit because it feels like there's a lot of text compacted. But this is a very well crafted resume. Is there any points you want to add, Edmund?
Yeah, so I agree. Like it's a very well crafted resume, right? So just make sure. So you don't really need to put a summary on your resume. If you really want their attention, you can add a cover letter, but that's optional. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good crafted resume. So good job. Is there anything else, or should I move on to the next one?
Also, Ayman, I wanna add one point. This person has done a well job on how to place the items as well, right? Let's assume that summary is not there, right? Some people would say put skills at the top, but I personally would love it to be all the way at the bottom. But they've made sure that their work experience is in the middle. The first thing when I look at the resume, I see the number of the 4 work experience that I have, so it pops out. And the least important stuff is on the lower side of things. So if you are a person with a lot of work experience, you definitely want to put that at the top, then your projects, then maybe your skills or education, or you can play around with your skills, put it at the top, and then your work experience second. So you can have that work experience really kind of like at the middle, stand out, pop out. But if you don't have work experience, you might want to put your education first to say that you are a student after all, and that's why I don't have any work experience. Then making your project stand out, and then skills, or maybe you can put the skills along with the education and then the projects in the top.
Actually, one more thing that we did miss out: the education should be at the very top, right? So in place of a summary, if you put the education at the very top, that would have been much better, because that's the first thing that recruiters usually look at. And as Omar said, like, work experience is absolutely essential. Like, make sure to put it on the top. If you don't have it, then go ahead and put your projects, but absolutely essential. Good point.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on to resume number 2. Now, if I'm being totally honest with you, I'm not sure if this is a resume or a research paper, right? Because if you see at the bottom, it says page 1 of 5. And, well, let me make something clear, right? The way that I personally picked out the resumes when I was looking over through was, well, a recruiter maximum spends about 10 seconds, not even 10, maybe 6, 7 seconds looking at your resume, right? So first of all, if it's more than 1 page, and I'm pretty sure most of us here in this room are probably 3rd, 4th, even, let's say, master's first year. So even with that, maybe there's not enough. You know, if you craft it well, you can put it to 1 page, right? Secondly, I'm not gonna go through a 5-page resume. Well, okay, so let's go through this, right? So the first thing I see is a Google Scholar profile. I don't care, right? I don't care about a Google Scholar profile. Secondly, this profile section right here, I'm not really sure what this is meant to be, because your resume itself is a profile, right? That's what it's meant to be. And then education and certification, this is okay, but it should come at the very top, right? Professional experience. Now remember what Omar said at the very beginning. You want to make sure that your bullet points are precise, small, and brief, right? Even though you have done a lot at your work, if you go on someone's LinkedIn profile, right, for a manager who's been doing something for, let's say, 30 years, you're not going to see like 2, 3 pages. You're going to see maybe a maximum of 10 bullet points, right? And that's because that's exactly what recruiters and hiring managers want to see, is not everything that you've done in your job or your work experience, is what have you accomplished, right? So when I look through this, right here to me is a red flag, because professional experience project 1 with a whole line of what they're doing, right? So would be able to save a lot of space right here by just, let's say, not even putting this word professional experience, right? You can just say work experience and then name of the company and just, you know, move on, right? And this, let's say this, and these are very subtle differences, but trust me, when you're trying to put everything into 1-page resume, everything matters, right? So if you move this date to the very right, and if you put it at the very right towards here, you'll see that, you know, you can just put the job title as well as the date in the very same page, right? So let's move on, right? So for responsibilities, again, you don't need to put, so that's the thing, right? So the reason why I said I feel like I'm reading a research paper is because there's too much content going on, right? There's professional experience, there's responsibilities. You know, each bullet point is probably like 2, 3 lines. You know, we want to keep it short to maximum 1 line. If you have a lot of content, then go for 2 lines, right? But you don't have to make every bullet points like 2, 3 lines right here. And just quickly touching base on this, right? Conducted a literature review, hands-on experience on buildings. So you can see that it kind of doesn't, you know, it's not attractive, let's say, for the very first impression, right? You want to use more technical words, let's say re-implemented, or I don't know, there's a lot of words that you can use instead of these, right? So, and then moving on to the next one. So it's, again, there's a lot of description right here, right? Like, so let's say that you're a PhD student right here, right? And you have 30 years of experience, right? And you're like, all right, I'm gonna put everything into this one resume. I'm gonna make this like a 5-page resume. Yeah, no, I'm not, like, if I was a manager right now, I wouldn't even look through this resume, first of all, right? And again, there's just too much going on. There's project 2, you know, there's the date, and the responsibilities are like 4 lines. You know, you don't want to make it seem like a paragraph, right? You want to make it seem like very brief, to the point, what you did. And project 2, right? Looks, I don't even know what this project 2 is. So I have, like, if anything, right, this applied AI ML researcher, this should be bolded, not the project 2. Because I don't care about how many projects you did, right? Like, you can get a job with literally one project, but you know, you just want to make sure that it really stands out, right? And again, you don't have to break it down into responsibilities, technical tools, software, right? Like, I'll know what you worked on if you explain, let's see. Yeah, so I can already see that let's say you're using Python or Matplotlib or, you know, AI and, you know, all this stuff, right? So you don't have to like repeat it at the bottom saying these are the technical tools and software that I used, which is exactly why it's really important to have a section in your resume which highlights your skills, right? Either at the top or at the bottom. My personal preference is just putting it on the side, and I'll show you that later on because there's some resumes coming up as well. The same thing goes for project 3. This in itself feels like, yeah, there's just too much going on, right? So, and the reason that I'm saying this, right, is because when we're creating resumes, we're submitting in hope of getting a job, right? Just being totally honest. But when a recruiter is hiring, they're probably going through like 300 to 400 resumes when they're simply putting up a job posting, right? So if, you know, if there's not something that's eye-catching on the resume, they're probably not gonna have a look through the rest of it, right? And that's just a thought to keep in mind. Omar, you wanna add something on this?
Yeah, so this looks like a CV. CV and resume are two different things. CVs are basically everything that you've done, like in your professional career and your education, everything you've done, give it to me. And yes, CVs can be multiple pages. A lot of people sometimes, and this is due to like different industries in different countries. A lot of people mistake CV as resume and resume as CV, right? Sorry, your resume should really be whoever submitted this, their resume should be just pick out the most like standout points or work experience and summarize it immensely to have it in like one page. And that's a resume. A resume is a short description of what you've done, and it's not a detailed description of what you've done. And that's just something I wanted to add in case there is some confusion in understanding what the difference between a CV and a resume is.
Right, exactly. So again, just keep it short and concise, right? And it's basically the same thing on each pages. So we have a lot of projects and a lot of descriptions, and we don't want that, right? And again, as Omar said, it's a very important point. In a CV, you can put publications and stuff, but I think, to be honest, in a resume, just absolutely not needed, right? Like you're applying for a job, you're probably looking for, I don't know, whatever, right? A full-time internship, co-op, doesn't really matter, but just keep it short and concise. All right, so let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, so, I haven't seen this resume before. Let me just do a quick scoop. No, you don't need to zoom in, or unless you need to zoom in for the crowd. I'll take a look at the resume.
Yeah, I'm just zooming in for the crowd.
Yeah, so one thing, the first thing that I'm seeing, basically your skills. You don't need to kind of give me a description of your skills. Just list them out. Always list out your skills. Right? Just make different points, say, programming languages, and list them out. Frameworks, list them out. Saying that you're proficient in C, adding those words just really takes away your eyes from kind of the prize, which is your skills. And when I had to also, my eyes had to look for the skills, right? Also keep in mind, a recruiter looks at a single resume for 3 seconds an hour. 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds to grab the attention of the recruiter for them to read your resume further. So I don't want to be searching for stuff, and that's why we also recommended to make the technologies that you've listed, that you've worked with in your personal projects or your work experience to make them bold, because that really grabs the attention of the recruiter. So yeah, the skills should be always list fully bilingual in English and French. Really, a lot of people add the language that they speak, right? If you are applying to jobs that are predominantly in North America or the UK, no one really cares about the language, about the language that you are able to speak. Really, just takes away from it. But if you're applying for jobs in Quebec, out in Europe, that will go a long way. Basically, so award, I like that they've added award and achievement. They've really kind of added the effort to kind of fill the space, and it's always nice to see that. So in terms of like format and structure, this resume has done that well. And their points that they've listed out, it was listed out pretty well, right? They've used concise phrases. Also, make the skills that you've listed out bold, make them stand out. But the way they have basically structured their sentences, that was pretty well. And this looks like they're in their 4th year. I would remove the year besides the project. It really doesn't matter, right? What year you've done the project. And yeah, that's pretty much. I'd give this up, if you want me to basically give this a resume a score, I'd say it's like a 7, right? Because of different things. Also, you really, one thing that I've missed, you really might want to put the teaching assistant job at the very bottom, even though it's the most recent. You might want to put it at the very bottom because you want to see the actual relevant tech experience jobs at the top.
So yeah, I just want to add something, right? One thing that I don't like is I'm having to go down here to look at the education. The education should be at the very top alongside your name and just underneath, right? For skills, don't need to write these proficient in C, Python. These should be separate bullet points. Just go like C, Python, assembly, AutoCAD, whatever, right? Again, for awards and achievements, that's pretty good. The descriptions are also well done. But yeah, again, like make sure your most relevant experiences are at the top. I've seen a lot of resumes, putting like, working at McDonald's and stuff. Don't really care, right? Like, what are you gonna do using that experience in software development? So yeah, good job with the projects. And overall, I like the formatting. It's just make sure that these are more concise and education's at the top, right? Yeah. So.
On to the next one.
7 announcement.
All right, so thank you, Ayman and Omer, for the presentation and the resume roasting. We're not done yet. We have our break now. So we'll take a quick 15-minute break right now. Before any of you stand up, please, let's finish our French part of it as well. So yeah, once again, we have pizza, snacks, and drinks available for you all in the back of the room for a chat. I'm sorry, you guys don't get food. You guys can eat your own dinner at home. So we do have 2 lineups in the back of the room. If we could have people, the 2 lineups like waving. So we have Caitlin and Naya. There's gonna be 2 lineups for you guys for the pizzas. Otherwise, for the snacks and the drinks, feel free to grab whatever you need. So each of you will be allowed to take only 2 slices of pizza. Don't worry, they're quite big. We got the biggest size. And so the selections are pepperoni, barbecue chicken, veggie, cheese, and we also have a gluten-free option as well. And then we'll see you guys back at 8:20.
Pour le souper, une fois de plus, nous avons des pizzas, des collations et des boissons disponibles au fond de la salle. Veuillez faire la queue. Il y aura 2 lignes pour obtenir votre dîner. Chacun d'entre vous ne pourra prendre que 2 parts de pizza. Elles sont assez grandes. Donc, les choix de pizza sont, encore une fois, pepperoni, poulet barbecue, végétarienne, fromage, ainsi qu'une option sans gluten.
Hopefully you all enjoyed your pizza. It was very tasty. Shout out to Domino's for not sponsoring us. All right, so I know this event is scheduled until 9 p.m. However, due to our late start, we will be continuing until 9:20. And so for those who are able to stay until 9:20, feel free. But if you gotta leave at 9, that's also equally as fine.
Donc, nous allons continuer l'événement jusqu'à 9h20 à cause des interruptions au début. Nous allons faire le plus grand nombre de roasting pour les CV que nous pouvons faire possible. Donc, on va commencer maintenant. Ayman, Omer.
Let's continue, guys. All right. Moving on to the next resume. Just before we start here, I did get a couple of questions in between, right, for the format of the resume. And the question I got was, does it matter what format I follow? Not really, but it's good that you stick with a format similar to such. Again, just make sure that you follow the right format, or the format that we looked in the previous resume where you have the skills and the other points listed on the side. Omar, I'll let you start this one. Sorry, hey, we can't hear Omar.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so just to extend on what Ayman said, always just keep it simple. Like, don't do too much. And in terms of like design, you don't need to. Let your work speak. Let your work attract the recruiter. So with this one, let me have a quick. Let me remember. So in the projects, right? You don't need to list out all the technologies that you've used, right? For example, in the header, I mean, like it's nice to keep it there, right? But at the end of the day, you should target to basically use those words in your description of the in the description of the project. And the project number one, I do not like it. I do not like people basically generalizing all of the projects that they've done, right? Saying UI UX web apps, develop the web app which allows the user to complete a series of questions and calculate the code based on users' input. That description compared to the title is completely different, right? I'm confused now. Basically, it's nice to have the first description to kind of summarize your application, but you could do a better job at it. And basically familiarized with Mongo database to store. You familiarize yourself and then done it in the project. I'm confused. So like you don't need to go like, oh, I familiarize myself in this process. No, the fact that you used it, developed, and created a project with it means that you've learned it and you familiarize yourself with it, right? So stay away from keywords like that. And then they make points by saying that you led a team to develop an app and understood the Office various services. I would also stay away from points like this because sometimes you don't want to say that it's a school project, but when you're a student, a lot of your projects are usually school projects. Saying that it's a school project sometimes kind of docks off points when a recruiter reads it. They're like, when they mentally read it, they go like, oh, it's a school project. They haven't done a good job at it, or maybe like they don't have the full picture in terms of what they did. So I always recommend people to stay away from stating that it's a school project or making it obvious that it's a school project. If it's a hackathon project, then yes, say that you've led a team. But also, I want to state out that this is my personal opinion regarding this. Also, saying that in the third project, stating that you taught people about Node.js, um, like you taught in your sorry, I just read it again. So they basically led a team of junior developers to become familiar with React. So what does that have to do with building the website itself, right? So what was this exactly? Was this a project for a hackathon? Was it this a school project? Um, there is a lot of stuff going on here. So like you look, it sounds like you created a project for school and a hackathon, and you've developed a website at the same time. But if you should kind of make it clear and concise about what you did and step by step. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah.
Simon?
So guys, I'll be honest with you. If I was a recruiter, within the first 4 seconds, I would not look through this resume anymore. And not because I wouldn't read through your content, because if you look here, wait, sorry, you can, hold on. Yeah, if you look right here, right, you'll see that this format does not even go correctly with the rest of the formatting of your resume, and that to me is a red flag, right? Resumes are very serious, guys. It's like when you dress up for an event, you don't want to wear like a dress with a hole in it, right? And to me, this is like a hole. Secondly, if you look, I'll zoom in here. If you look at this project here, whatever website, junior developers to become familiar with React and JavaScript, again, a red flag, because React is a language with a capital R, and you have to use a capital, like you have to do them justice. You can't just put words and expect that, all right, you know what, I put everything out there, why am I not getting a job? As I said, I wouldn't look through this after the first 3 seconds. Thirdly, education should be at the top. Technical skills, I guess it's okay, but personal preference for me, putting them at the top again. Other than that, yeah, like as Omar mentioned, don't put generic projects, like it doesn't make any sense. Just put like specific projects. Even if you have just one, it's better to put one than just generalizing the projects, right? But yeah. So
And also, we've talked about creating a career snapshot. In each project that you've listed and each work experience that you've listed, you have to create a kind of a step-by-step snapshot as well. You have to lead up. Basically, okay, I personally don't like saying what the application does overall in my first point, but I personally also used to do that at the beginning, right? Just because I personally want the recruiter to focus on the technical stuff. I would like to focus on explaining the technical stuff that I've done in my points. But yeah, so basically, usually in the web applications, if you're a full stack engineer, what do? You do front end, you do back end, maybe you do testing, you do database. Make those separate points, right? And make something special, right? When you create a database, or when you create like a backend, for example, try to use some sort of framework or architecture that is used in industry, and then say that you've used that in your project as well. So make separating your project or separating your work experience into different points, right? And then listing them out, it will give like a good snapshot of what you did overall. Don't try to mix stuff. Don't try to like, oh, I did front end and back end in one line. No, try to separate them out.
right, so we'll move on to the next one. Just because we have so many resumes left, so the ones which are very similar, we'll just touch on the few points, and obviously the content, we can always talk about it. But we have around 30 more resumes to go, so Omar will speed it up just a bit if we see something similar, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So this is actually, I actually like the format of this resume. It's not bad. It has, I think, yeah, this is where your name is, your GitHub, your contact information, and then your current job title, I think, which is very important, right? On the very first thought, I see your education, which is pretty good. I see your skills, which is also great. One thing that I would mention though is if you have, let's see, work experience. Okay, so if you have work experience, it's number one. It's absolutely number one. You want to make sure that your work experience stands out, right? Put it on the top. I see work experience here. This should not be the case. Like also, even though I do like the format, it's kind of half and half, right? So if you remember the very first, or it's probably the second resume, the skills were kind of at maybe on the left or right, but it was kind of in a box, right? It was not like half and half. Because if I'm reading through this, I don't know where to look. Like, do I look left? Do I look right? Not really sure where to look at, right? So, again, courses, I've got an A plus in. Honestly, grades when you're applying, I'll be totally honest with you, does not matter. You can have a B minus competing with someone who has a perfect GPA. You'll still land a better job if you have like a better resume with good experience, right?
Correct, but I just want to add that if you have like a perfect score and you want to show it off, always go ahead.
Go ahead.
But it's not mandatory.
Yeah, like for me, like when I was applying, right? I never had like A pluses or like A's, right? I was like a B student, so I just didn't put my GPA because like if there's something to bring it down, why take the chance, right? So yeah, for this format, again, work experience should be at the top. If I had to change something, it would be putting the skills more to a side because this is kind of wasting space, right? And so yeah, put the experience at the top. I would suggest don't make it a half and half because this is very confusing. If I'm looking top to bottom, I don't know where to look. Do I look right or do I look left? Point-wise, it's actually not bad. Personal projects, 2-3 bullet points, which is more than enough. If you have certifications. So one thing that I'd recommend to all of you, right, is if you're in either systems engineering, software, electrical, doesn't matter, right? Any sort of engineering, more than less, we do a lot of projects in school, right? Because I remember in the very first year, we did like a very simple Python imagine library, and just put it on there, right? Like maybe you're in your second or third year, and you're trying to put in volunteering experience. Let's say like which one's better, like projects or volunteering experience, right? Obviously projects, something that's more related to the work. So is there anything else you want to add, Omar?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I want to add. Basically, the person wasted a lot of space on ooh, I lost the resume on my screen. Yeah, so basically they wasted a lot of space on the number of courses that they've done. And that's the first thing that pops out to me, right? I see the courses that you've done. You have personal projects, you have work experience, you have stuff that shows that you've worked and you've dealt with that. I want to see that instead of seeing your projects that I've worked with. And the personal project details, I honestly had to squint to look at them, or zoom in basically to look at them, right? And avoid, as we said, avoid paragraphs. As much as you can, avoid paragraphs. Turn these into bullet points, small, concise bullet points. And as Ayman suggested, if you have work experience, put it at the top. In this situation, they only have like an RA experience. So yeah, so you wanna they might wanna put it. It doesn't matter if they really put the education at the top, but in this format, it basically hurts them because it's half and half. I would say completely change the format of this. Have something like the previous resume that we saw, where you have like an entire row by row sections for education and work experience and personal projects. And that way I could basically, my eyes would be able to follow and not one thing would be kind of popping out, right? Which in this case is only education. You want to make your work experience and personal projects pop out the most.
I think the next resume does justice to what we were saying. So if you look at this one, right, Um, Again, just if you have a look here, you don't need this information. Rather than that, just put your contact information here. Maybe it's blurred out here, I'm not sure, but this is not really necessary. Rather, if you have your name from left to right, it looks much nicer. Put your GitHub, LinkedIn, your phone number, your email. I like it that you have the education here. This is what I was talking about, right? You want to have the skills maybe to the left-hand side, and I am biased towards this because it has worked for me many times. Put the skills to the left, soft skills to the left, which is perfectly okay. One thing, yeah, again, so instead of putting the contact here, I would say put the contact here with your name, your information. Again, same thing, work experience, put it at the top, put the projects at the bottom. Work experience is the most important unless you have you're working, let's say, at McDonald's or something which is not related to the technical field, right? Other than that, yeah, these look like these are pretty well related, that there's co-ops, so make sure put it at the top, put the projects at the bottom, be consistent, and yeah, other than that, it's a decent resume for me.
Yes. Likewise, put your work experience at the top, highlight projects on the bottom. They've done a very well job to kind of make it a 3-4 ratio on the right and the 1-4 ratio at the left, where they kind of list out their personal experience, personal project experience, and then their work experience. And I can see that that's the kind of the main juice, or the kind of the meat of the resume. That's what they say, I think. But one thing I want to highlight is that, can you see my annotation?
We cannot. Oh, we
Okay.
can.
No.
Sorry, I can't see it on my screen.
Yeah, never. Yeah, so this space right here is vital. You can really push basically what I want. What you can do is that these points can be listed out in this way, right? So they won't need to be truncated in that matter. And then your basically the positions that you've held over here can be kind of listed out next to the job title. To the company that you worked in, right? It's also just it's better. It flows better. I could easily say, okay, this is the company, this is the title, and these are the stuff that you've done. It's just easier to read, and also don't forget to make the technologies and the frameworks that you've used in your personal projects and the work experience, make them bold.
Exactly. So, all right, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, yeah. I can take this one, Ayman. Basically, this is a better usage of half and half. So they have done a very well job in making a half and half resume. I guess this is the first half and half resume that I quite like, but at the same time, my eyes are jumping from left to right. So just avoid it. It really works against you, right? Even though they've listed out the technologies that they've used in every point, I do not mind it in this situation, in this resume specifically, but they've done a very good job at listing out the points for their personal project and their experience. For this, and I would push the education all the way up the top, because it's all the way at the bottom here. My only issue with this resume is the format. Really change the design, but the content is great. Use a more standard format. It really would benefit you at the end of the day. I would also remove soft skills as well. Can you scroll all the way? Can you scroll to the top, please? Yeah, so I would remove soft skills and add the skills that you know, and skills in terms of technologies and the frameworks that you know. And I would remove the technologies used in every single project, and just make the technologies and the frameworks bold in the points that you listed out.
Yep, I agree. The points are pretty good. As you can see, there's a point where it says image compression by 15%. Use statistical numbers, which is great. But yeah, what Omar said. So all right, let's move on to the next one. Just sorry, 1 second. Yeah, just making sure that's a one-page resume. All right. I can take this.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I look at this resume, right, at the very first thought, it seems very bland. Like there's no colors, there's no design, there's no, ideally, let's say even if I did follow this format, the name should be here with the contact information. The skills are like teeny tiny, like the headings, skills, links. I think, yeah, the headings are smaller than the font itself. Yeah, so the headings should definitely be bigger than the points itself, right? So make sure that let's say skills, right? Make sure it's in bold or it's in a bigger font than the other ones. But again, this isn't following any of the formats, so it should have education at the top, have your work experience. Let's say if you don't have your work experience, put your projects, right? Again, like make sure these stand out. You don't want to have sequential circuits here. It's probably like a margin issue, right? Make sure you fix those. The white space doesn't really look good on the resume. Just make sure you put a lot of effort into creating your resume, right? Like just making it a good one. Again, education, I don't know why this keeps popping up at the bottom. Maybe it's because maybe they provide a format or something, but again, even in our time, I remember it wasn't like a very good template to use. So anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of things I would change for this resume, right? As we mentioned, education at the top, follow the work experience, project, and skills. All right, Omar, you can take this one.
So there is, okay, so first and foremost, nothing, can you zoom out? Just like all the way. So if you can see this resume, like the information of the resume part of the resume starts halfway of the page, which is why would you do that? Pick a better format. Have your education at the top in a row wise, and have your experience after. Then you might want to add a personal project section for this as well. Profile, not required. Skills, only relevant. This seems to be more of like a business oriented resume. But yeah, so I guess for those skills, for that is fine. Try to add more technical skills if you can, and don't basically. But yeah, this in terms of the experience point, that looks good, and education, that looks good. But yeah, completely change the format.
I think you guys got a pretty good idea of what a good resume should like. What we'll do is we have more 30 resumes for 30 minutes. So we'll kind of go a bit faster, right? Just go over through the ones which have a good, if it needs any feedback or stands out, or the one which needs improvement, we'll just go a bit faster, right? Like let's say this one, right? It's pretty good. You have education at the top, skills, work experience, projects. So yeah, as I was saying, right, it was like, let's say if you want to call it like an ideal template, that's what it would be. Your name, your contact information, education, skills, work experience, and each section stands out, right? You have education, you have a big font which says skills, you have work experience. I know that, all right, I can straight off read this, co-op, co-op, co-op. You have the experience listed at the bottom, you have projects. Well done. Like this is a good structured resume, right?
Yeah, fantastic resume, I'd say. Two nitpicks. Your skills, put it all the way at the down. Put it all the way at the bottom, because your education pops out, then you want to make your work experience pop out more, and then project, and then skill, right? Make the technologies and frameworks used throughout the sentences and points, make them bold. Fantastic resume, I want to say. Congratulations. Good job, I mean. And one one point that I'd like to add, you guys must have seen this sort of format repeated, and you might wonder, oh, how can I build a resume with the same format or the same kind of what's it called, design? Overleaf. I am a big fan of Overleaf
Yeah,
for building your
absolutely. Yeah.
resume and LaTeX. So just Google Overleaf resume templates, and trust me, the first link you go on there, um, you will find this resume kind of format, and you'll be able just to edit it out and add your information there.
I'll show you guys the resume he's talking about towards the very end. But yeah, top-notch resume, that one. So this one, again, it's very similar to the previous one, but you see the difference here is this is very clear, right? And this is very congested. And you don't want that, right? You want it to make it more spaced out. You wanna increase your font size so that you have your job experience and your bullet points. So the number of points is great, but overall, if I'm looking at this, it just feels that it is a bit congested. So make sure, and you don't need to put too much information, right? Like space it out properly, use the margins effectively, and you should be good.
Yeah, and wait,
Sorry.
one thing I'd like to add over there, no worries. You don't need to add everything that you've done. You can be selective, right? For example, to fix this person's issue with um, basically spacing out and having a little bit more space here and there instead of it being congested, their fourth work experience software engineer intern, they've only added one bullet point. You don't need to add that really. You can remove that. It's fine. You have a lot of work experience. You don't need to add all of it.
Choose the best ones, right?
Yeah, choose the best ones. And this person looks like they have a lot of work experience with machine learning and basically and data science. So if you are applying for data science and machine learning jobs, you can have a resume for that, and you can have a separate resume for software engineering jobs. There is nothing wrong with having two resumes that list out kind of two different set of skills that you have. And yeah, that's it.
All right, let's move on. Omar, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one if you want me to. The points are too short, right? For example, the third point in their work experience, they said developed form validations in JavaScript with jQuery. What sort of form validation? Like make it stand out a little, like explain it a little bit more. And formatting, JavaScript, J should be capital. But the second point is amazing. Developed Ajax solutions with the help of grammar. Make sure your grammar is also correct. jQuery and PHP should all be capital in the backend to generate asynchronous content. Never mind, I don't like the sentence. In the backend, we understand that it's the backend when you say PHP, right? So you can word this sentence with better English and better grammar, better formatting. But overall, the structure of the resume is pretty well. The general format of the resume is pretty good. I would say you might want to add, you might want to make the education at the top as well. And certifications, there are only, as Ayman said at the beginning, there are only kind of like a few industries where you might want to put certifications, but general certifications, like those when you're targeting software engineering jobs really doesn't matter. The one industry that really cares about certifications that I know of for a fact is cybersecurity. So if you're targeting cybersecurity jobs, yes, and if you have cybersecurity kind of training and certifications, definitely add that in there. But a lot of the times, they might just utilize space for no reason. But
Yeah, so like
This,
not super important, right?
mhm.
Certifications, and again, like make sure that when you're like just putting technologies like PHP, JavaScript, whatever, make sure like you get them correct, right? Because there's a lot of errors even in the way that you spell out a language. So keep that in mind, guys. All right, so let's move on. We have a lot to cover. Um, yeah, so this was one of the resumes that I actually really liked. This one had their name at the top, their contact information, education, awards, great, no problem, relevant courses, skills. See, the reason that I like this format, and personally I am biased towards this format, is because you can put a lot of information on the side, right? You can put your education if you want to put awards or skills. Even though I would put the skills in like a nicer bullet format, that's still okay. And then you have and this rest of this part to just write everything, right? See, very simple, nothing fancy, work experience, projects. That's it. Keep it simple, keep it short. Quick glance. Where have you done your job, your co-op? What's your project? What program are you in? And that's it. If I'm a manager, if I like you, I'll probably call you for an interview, right? So good job.
Two things.
Yeah, go ahead.
The left side, left alignment. Why? I don't get the right alignment. It it's a little bit ugly when you right align it, but left align everything. English is a left aligned language. And the second work experience, like, yeah, at every job you learn. You don't need to say that you learned. You learned by doing, and people care uh, about what you did and how you did it. So just word it in a way that you're saying that you've done this, done that, saying that you learned, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
same, agreed, right? Right. Don't repeat your starting points. Just use some technical points, and you're good.
Mhm.
Nothing too much to say on this one as well. Format is okay with experience, with internships.
This is a two-page, Ayman.
Oh, this is a two-page. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then so if you're probably in your second, third, or fourth year, even if you have a lot of experiences, it's just probably best to put everything in one page. I know it's hard to put everything in, but trust me, with a bit of formatting, changing font sizes, you can do it, and it just looks so much better, right? Like, let's say I just looked at this first, right? I thought it's a one-page resume, but turns out there's a second page, which is why if you have these in the beginning, right? Like, I don't want to so if I look at this resume, I'm probably not even gonna know who you are because your education's in the next page, right? Absolutely not. You want to put that in the very first page. Um, you want to put all the right. You want to use the right format, and again, just yeah, with a bit of formatting, you can. You don't have to put too many points. You can put it in one page.
Yeah. So what Ayman said, one page, you can format, play around with the format. I can tell you an easy way to make this one page, right? Remove your projects. You have way too many job experiences for
Yeah.
someone to even care about the projects that you've done, right? That's the first approach. Second approach is that you can remove some work experiences, and go back to the first page. Yeah, so for like you have process engineering experience, you have DevOps engineering experience, you have software engineering experience. Those are three sort of industry, three like different type of job experiences that you have. There is no, there's no harm in removing some of the work experiences that you've done and having multiple resumes for different types of jobs. But in this example, you can play around with the format, like removing the absolute first sentence, um, and just focusing on the work that you've done and removing personal projects because you have way too many job experiences already, the projects that really don't matter. And yeah, playing around with the font, it's possible.
Yeah, like when you keep getting job experiences, just cut down on the projects, right? You'll see. I'll explain why it doesn't matter later on. this is a very similar resume that we looked at, I think, before. It had the education, yeah, technical skills. I feel like we already saw this, or like a very similar one, but nonetheless, it's not bad. It's actually a pretty good one. Maybe shorten the points a bit. Other than that, I feel like it's not a bad one. Good job.
Yeah, amazing job. Shorten the points here and there. You could always remove points. Make the technologies bold. Standard.
Very similar resume, this one as well. Yeah, not much to say, to be honest. I think this is just a continuation. All right. Sorry, do you want to say anything?
No. Yeah, so 2-page resume, same thing, 1 page.
All right, so this is one resume that I want to talk about, right? Unfortunately, this got cut out to the left, but if you actually had a look at the resume, the skills were absolutely, like, it was like stuck to the side of the page. I don't know why. You can use bullet points. There's a lot of things you can use in Microsoft Word, and it's just not very appealing for me, right? If I look at the skills at the it just doesn't look appealing. Even with these projects here, there's way too many projects, right? Like, kind of spread it out and use different fonts, and then, maybe if you have so many projects, then like, just cut down some, right? And then expand on the others. Even then, like, you can see that the fonts here are the exact, like, they're like squished together, right? So I don't even know how many projects there are. And to be honest, if I was recruiting, I wouldn't care just looking at this, even if you've done like 10 projects, because I can't even read what projects you have. But my suggestion would be, reduce the number of projects, increase the number of bullet points, and make sure that the projects stand out. And just follow those good resume templates that we showed you. And there's good resume templates coming up as well.
Ayman, do you want to skip to like the
let's
four?
let's skip a few resumes because these are mostly the same. So actually, yeah, this one just caught my eye as well. So this is a pretty nice one, right? You have education, skills, projects. Since you don't have work experience, volunteering. Very simple. You don't have to make the most fancy resume. Just follow a very simple format. Put some work into it, of course, but that's good, right? So we'll do one thing. We'll go towards the end because there are a couple of. So, yeah, try and also avoid, I guess, the half and half resume, right?
No, go back to that one. I'm so
all
sorry.
right, sure. Yeah.
And go back. Like,
Sorry.
I'll tell you when to
This
stop.
one?
Nope.
This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's here. So, like, a lot of people in different experiences say like, oh, having like a design here and there will kind of will help your resume stand out to your recruiter. Yes, but you also have to understand how the resume also reaches your recruiter in the first place. I forgot the name of the engine, but it's a very popular resume screening engine name. If you know it, Ayman, let me know. But there is a resume engine that basically parses your resume first and foremost before it reaches to the recruiter. And having a lot of designs and pictures, like in the second page, if you press for the next page, would actually work against you, and like, what's it called? And your resume would be thrown out before it even reaches to your recruiter. So you really might want to just cut down on the design, keep it simple, stick to the kind of headlines of work experience, education, personal project, and skills, and just listing them out in a point-wise fashion.
All right, thank you, Omar. Yeah, that's actually a very good point because, and I actually forgot to mention, a lot of companies, I'm not sure which ones obviously, but they do use a screening engine or something, which basically screens your resume, right? It goes through resumes and takes out keywords and bullet points. So yeah, just keep it as simple as possible. All right. Omar, I'll let you take this one. Start off, and I'll join.
Okay, yeah. So, okay. Amazing resume. I am not a big fan of two columns just in general, but two columns is there's nothing wrong with doing two columns if you do it right. And Ayman likes two columns, right? So that's why you have kind of two different sides. But this is a two column resume that I like, and they put out their points perfectly. Um, Remove the year in projects. No one cares. And one thing, I don't know why, but the title of the resume, the title of the kind of the work experience, sorry, the title of the personal projects, it it kind of blends in with the points, right? Play around with the font size and the font color and the font type of the title to have like a clear, quick distinction that that the recruiter can make that this is a title and this is the points, and a little bit more spacing between the projects is good, but overall, fantastic job.
Very good point. Yeah. So as you can see here, these fonts are kind of blending in, right? So you don't want that. So let's look at a final version of this resume right here, and so this one, right? It starts off with the name, the GitHub, LinkedIn, and everything. Again, I am biased towards this format because it has worked for me several times. Just as a quick glance, programming experience, what do you have? Note that I didn't put software tools with the programming experience, right? Because it's just a bit separate. But then it gives a lot of space here to put the work experience. And again, like this part, not too complex, right? You have a couple of work experiences and then software projects, right? So as time goes on and you gain more and more work experience, I would suggest that just decrease the number of software projects, right? And interestingly, this is actually my resume, and the reason that I put it up top here is because I wanted Omar to properly roast my resume. And when we went back to the previous one, he did say that these kind of get blended in, right? And that's the very same advice that I got when I also put my resume up for roasting before. And then this is kind of like my final resume before I graduated, and this is kind of what got me into my full-time position at Siena right now, right? So anyone who has seen this resume, they have liked it, and not because it's very fancy, but it's because I have kind of color-coded like the skills in blue here and the titles, right? And I have kind of separated like the work experience in like a different color font and tried to make it as distinctive as possible. Make sure that the spacing, obviously I feel like even now the spacing could be better, and these have a lot of points, but that's because this project did involve a lot of points, right? Which is exactly what I'm saying. And make sure that everything, like if you have, notice that the titles are in blue, right? The company titles are in black, the job titles are in blue. Even these dates at the right side, these are like formatted properly. Make sure that these bullet points every single bullet points are like properly formatted. Trust me, it does make a big difference when someone's screening your resume for like 5-6 seconds, right? So yeah, Omar, what do you think?
I promise you, this was not. I promise the audience, this was not. This was not rehearsed or planned. I actually had no idea that this was his resume. But yeah, fantastic job, Ayman. Congratulations on your full-time job. But I mean, yeah. So, and yeah, basically, I hope everyone kind of took everything lightheartedly, and we want everyone to get those jobs out there. And yeah, that's
Yeah, like interesting fact, right? Omar didn't know that I put this up as my resume, which is why I asked them to blur everything out. Just the reason for showing you this resume is because the very first resume that I ever made was absolutely shit, right? I'm gonna be honest with you. It was like absolutely crap. It was a 2-page resume followed by the co-op office, and it was horrid. It was horrible. I got 0 interviews in a 4-month application process. It did not work out. I had to sit back. I had to take the time, reform my resume, and trust me, to get here was like 4 years of work, right? Like the very first resume that I made had almost nothing. It had a lot of white space, so I tried filling it with, experiences and projects as much as I could. And then I put a lot of coursework. I had like, I think, 3 or 4 coursework in the resume section, right? And I also had a lot of software projects that I did on the side. There's so many websites like Udemy. Utilize those if you want to learn something new, and just try and put it on your resume to showcase it off. And don't be afraid to like reach out, right? Like, so let's see what we have here. All right, so that was pretty much it for roasting the resume. So I'll just say something from my side, right? There are a few tips that I would like to give you guys when you're applying for positions, either be it full-time or internships. It's almost the same thing, right? You're basically applying with a resume. Don't just apply online and just wait, right? That's not gonna do you any good. Like, as stupid as it sounds, like, you can apply online to maybe like 300-400 places. Yeah, for sure you'll hear back, but chances are less, right? Like, apply, reach out to people on LinkedIn, directly reach out to the recruiters. There are people called talent sourcers who are actually looking to hire people, or like pass in your resume to the hiring managers. Use those. Don't just sit back and apply. That's gonna get you nowhere. Come to these events. Try and structure your resume in a good format. Don't expect to get job even interviews with a very, very average resume. I know this sounds very harsh to hear, and honestly, for the people who got your resumes roasted today, again, just take it as an advice. Spend some time. It's like a part-time job, right? You have to spend like maybe an hour or like 2 every week just to like properly sit down and structure your resume. And like, let's face it, this is probably the only thing that's gonna get you into like the job field, unless you know someone who's already working, right? Even then, so follow these tips and tricks, right? And best of luck. Hope you guys all get like a full-time position. Hope to see you guys at CN or Microsoft. Omar, you want to add something?
Yeah, yeah, amazing points that you made. Make connection, right? And um, this is also, if we're talking about giving advice, one advice that I tell you, that I tell anyone when it comes to your resume or interviewing or applying, failing is amazing. Do not like kind of crave to fail. Like, if you once you fail, you will learn, and getting your resume roasted, it will make your resume better. Failing one interview will make you learn about how to pass the next one. You will always learn, and yeah, always to craft that well resume. Go to resume roasting events. Let your friend roast your resume, and there's a lot of CS servers out there. I know, like Ottawa CS Club server. I'm sorry. You can post your resume too and get it roasted. I'm always there, and I always like posting resumes there. And if you wanna add me on LinkedIn and send me your resume to get it further roasted, I'd gladly do it.
Thank you. And also, and just adding one last thing, right? Make iterations of your resumes. Don't just keep saving one single resume, because trust me, over the years you'll see that it does help, right? So best of luck, and thank you so much for coming to this event. I'll hand it over to Stephen.
Let's give a round of applause for Omar and Ayman. All right, so thank you all for coming out, and for those online on Twitch again, hi chat. Thank you for being with us online. Be sure to follow us, please, on Twitch. All right, so that concludes our evening tonight. We hope you all enjoyed the roasting and gained valuable information from this event. A huge thank you once again to Ayman and Omer for coming out as guest speakers and roasters for tonight. Please accept these Amazon gift cards as a token of our appreciation. So.
You guys didn't even tell me I have to pose. I just knew because Manal was just like.
Yeah, there you go. All right, to stay up to date with our upcoming events, please be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You guys can, can we switch back to the, Yep, be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. We do have an upcoming event coming up on Wednesday, November 29th, which has yet to be announced, called a Coffee Code and Cram. And so be sure to follow us for those.
Donc, pour conclure, merci à tous d'être venus. Cela conclut notre événement de ce soir. Nous espérons que vous avez apprécié le roasting et que vous avez obtenu des informations précieuses de cet événement. Un grand merci à Ayman et Omer, encore une fois, d'être venus en tant qu'orateurs invités et roasters pour ce soir. Pour rester au courant de nos prochains événements, n'hésitez pas à nous suivre sur nos médias sociaux. Nous avons un autre événement communautaire à venir le mercredi 29 novembre qui n'a pas encore été annoncé au public, mais juste pour un petit hint, c'est appelé Café, Code et Crème. Alors, restez à l'écoute sur nos médias sociaux pour les mises à jour et merci d'avoir coming.
Thank you to the organizers as well.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good night.